It may surprise or even shock you to hear what I'm about to say, but if you're seeing this video right now, it's no accident. Something within you has been craving a dramatic shift, a stirring in your core that insists you can't remain in the same pattern any longer. As a true chosen one, you've probably felt stuck or uninspired, almost as if time itself were dragging its feet. But a major trip or relocation, be it across the city or across an ocean, has the power to break this cycle of stagnation. In your heart, you already know a change of scenery holds more than new views. It can spark fresh opportunities, reset your perspective, and reawaken the parts of you that have been dormant for too long. If you can sense even a spark of truth in these words, please like this video, subscribe, and comment 77 feet to let the universe know you're ready for what comes next. Chapter 1. That moment you sense the walls closing in. You might recall the first time you felt that uncomfortable squeeze of stillness. It could have been a quiet afternoon when, out of nowhere, you realized your daily routine had begun to feel suffocating. The places you used to frequent, grocery stores, coffee shops, maybe even your own living room, no longer inspired you. A subtle anxiety set in, whispering that you were missing out on something bigger, something that lived outside your immediate bubble. At first, you might have chalked it up to restlessness, but the feeling didn't go away. Instead, it grew stronger, urging you to consider a shift you hadn't truly contemplated before, traveling somewhere new, even if just for a short time, or planning an entire move to a place you never dared imagine calling home. For a moment, you might have dismissed it as a daydream, thinking, I can't just drop everything. But that spark of possibility continued to glow quietly, challenging the logic that said you should stay put. In that moment, you realize how deeply environment shapes your spirit. Familiar roads, the same circle of acquaintances, and the same daily obstacles can begin to numb your sense of wonder. You started to see that maybe, just maybe, stepping outside your usual perimeter could unleash a vitality you'd almost forgotten. Yet it's not just about novelty, it's about growth. When you're stuck in one environment for too long, the mind grows complacent, comfortable, and reluctant to stretch. By venturing into new terrain, you invite fresh questions, fresh angles, and new layers of yourself to emerge. You might have tried smaller fixes, rearranging furniture, exploring a different hobby, or switching up your route to work. But those minor tweaks only offered fleeting relief. The longing remained. If you're honest, it's not merely about getting away, but about finding a space or a journey that invigorates your very core. Something in your soul demands expansion and is letting you know that this next move or trip could be the catalyst to finally break free from the staleness you've been battling. Chapter 2. Why a change of place shifts your perspective. Have you noticed how just a weekend getaway can sometimes give you a new outlook? Maybe you spent time by the ocean or in the mountains, and suddenly life felt manageable again. It's as if different surroundings loosen the grip of worries that seem so large back home. There's a reason for this. We tend to associate specific places with recurring thoughts, emotions, and even expectations. When you remain in the same place day after day, your mind cycles through the same patterns, making it tough to see beyond them. Now imagine amplifying that effect, taking a more significant trip or relocating entirely. That's when transformation steps in at a whole new level. When you land in a different city or country, your senses awake to unfamiliar sights, sounds, and even scents. The act of navigating new streets and meeting new people stretches your capacity for adaptation. And adaptation is precisely what fuels growth. It frees you from the autopilot mode your brain might have been stuck in, urging you to be fully present and engaged. For a chosen one, presence is key. You've likely had the feeling that life was nudging you to do something beyond the ordinary, but felt too weighed down by a routine to act on it. A shift in location can jolt you into a heightened state of awareness. At first, it might feel overwhelming. Learning public transport in a foreign city, or even just finding a grocery store in a new neighborhood, can be stressful. But that heightened alertness is also what makes you come alive, forcing you to rely on instincts you didn't know you had. Moreover, meeting people whose backgrounds differ from yours can expand how you see the world and yourself. Conversations with strangers who hold entirely different perspectives can feel like windows into undiscovered rooms in your mind. Even if you only pick up fragments of their stories, those fragments can shift your internal dialogue about who you are and what you want out of life. This is the power of stepping outside the bubble of your everyday existence. You realize the stories you tell yourself about limitations, about the shape of your destiny, might not be as unchangeable as you assumed. In short, the change of place is more than a physical relocation. It's a psychological shift. The same brain that felt boxed in by old routines suddenly thrives in a new environment. And once you experience that expansion, you'll find it increasingly challenging to settle back into old confines. That's the blessing of letting yourself wander into new territory. You return with a mind that's grown too spacious for the small barriers that once hemmed you in. Chapter 3. The stagnation you're meant to break. There's a specific kind of heaviness that clings to you when life feels stuck. It's the sense that no matter how many times you shuffle the deck, you draw the same cards. Work, relationships, personal goals, everything seems to inch forward, if at all. This type of stagnation isn't just monotony. It can sink into your bones, affecting your motivation and your clarity about the future. You might find yourself waking up every day already tired, as though your spirit is weighed down by an unseen anchor. Yet the fact that you're aware of this stagnation, rather than simply accepting it, speaks to your role as a chosen one. You hold a restlessness that won't let you settle for a life on repeat. While others might numb themselves or dismiss the possibility of change, you sense there's more out there, an intangible more that you can't quite pinpoint, but you know it involves stepping beyond your current boundaries. Breaking stagnation isn't about impulsive decisions. It's about recognizing that your environment, both external and internal, could use a jolt of fresh energy. And often, physical movement triggers internal movement. That's why trips, even short ones, can act like a catalyst. Or perhaps a permanent move calls out to you, a more drastic step that signals to your subconscious you're no longer content with the slow trickle of days. In either case, the act of going somewhere else, of lifting yourself from familiar ground, can disrupt the static atmosphere that's been hovering around you. It's not that your present setting is inherently bad. Sometimes we simply outgrow certain places or routines. The expansion you yearn for might not be possible in your current setup. Familiar faces and old obligations can tether you to past versions of yourself. Breaking away, even temporarily, gives you the chance to see how you function outside the roles you've worn for so long. This is how you break the cycle, by acknowledging the stagnation as a clear sign that you've reached the limits of what your current circumstances can teach you. It's a testament to the growth you've undergone, that you need new challenges, new vistas. And once you act on that realization, booking a plane ticket, packing up a car, or even mapping out a day trip to somewhere unfamiliar, the energy begins to shift. In the space where stagnation used to reign, momentum rushes in, filling you with a combination of excitement and maybe a hint of fear. But in that rush, you come alive again, remembering that you were never meant to sit idle while the world moved on. You were meant to be in motion, breaking cycles and forging new paths. Chapter 4. How a single journey can rewrite your future. It's uncanny how one journey, just one, can upend everything you thought you knew about your life. Maybe you've heard stories from friends who traveled and returned looking different, as though they'd left pieces of themselves behind in distant streets, only to uncover fresh facets of identity they never knew existed. Or you might recall a time in your own life where a brief vacation led to an unexpected revelation that changed your entire perspective. For a chosen one, these experiences aren't mere happenstance. Travel can be a potent spiritual accelerator. In unfamiliar settings, you're forced to rely on intuition and spontaneity. The usual guardrails you cling to, your local language, your familiar grocery store aisles, your default circle of acquaintances, might be absent. Stripping away these comforts compels you to adapt, and in adaptation lies the seed of evolution. You solve problems in real time, discover hidden personal strengths, and open yourself to the world in a way that daily routines rarely demand. Moreover, stepping into new cultural or natural environments can jolt your senses awake. The colors of a different landscape, the aroma of local cuisine, or the rhythm of a foreign city's heartbeat can all crack open the shell you've built around your imagination. With your senses heightened, your mind grows more flexible, more receptive to fresh ideas. This flexibility can follow you home, translating into bold decisions about your work or living situation, or even giving you the courage to start that project you've been postponing forever. One small journey can rewrite your future in more ways than you anticipate. You might meet a person who connects you to an opportunity or stumble upon a community that fuels your passions. Or maybe you'll be moved by the way people live simpler lives, prompting you to realign your own priorities. Sometimes the change is more subtle. You return with a clearer sense of who you are, and that clarity shapes every choice you make thereafter. It might nudge you to let go of a standing job or to distance yourself from habits that no longer serve you, forging a more authentic path forward. Even if you don't intend to relocate permanently, traveling offers a taste of what life could be if you allowed yourself to step out of your comfort zone more often. And if a permanent move beckons, well, that journey can revolutionize your destiny entirely. The city you choose to call home or the countryside you decide to reside in forms the backdrop against which your next chapter unfolds. Changing that backdrop can redefine the story you live out each day. Chapter 5. The courage to leave the familiar. A trip or a move can sound exhilarating in theory, yet taking the leap is another story. It's not just about packing a bag or booking a flight. It's about confronting the ties that keep you rooted in place. Family, expectations, job security, friendships. These are the threads that can make us hesitate, even when a part of us craves new horizons. As a chosen one, you carry obligations and hopes not just for yourself, but often for those around you. So stepping away can feel like an immense responsibility. Yet there's a hidden strength in acknowledging what holds you back. Fear of the unknown is common, but so is regret when you let that fear dictate your decisions. At some point, you realize that the cost of staying stuck is higher than the cost of taking a risk. You might risk your comfort, your routines, or your immediate sense of security. But in exchange, you gain the prospect of real growth, real fulfillment. For some, the move might be abrupt, triggered by an emotional revelation or a sudden job opportunity. For others, it's methodical, planned months or years in advance. Regardless of the approach, the real challenge is emotional. It's about giving yourself permission to leave behind what you've known with the faith that you'll discover something greater. And faith is exactly what being a chosen one is about. You innately sense that your path requires more than just making do with the status quo. You might worry about how people will react. Some may be supportive, while others could be dismissive or concerned. Remember, not everyone shares your vision. They don't feel the same stir that you do. But that stir is precisely the signal that you're meant to break a cycle they might not even see. Ultimately, it's your journey, one you must undertake for your own evolution, even if it means stepping away from certain comforts or relationships. Once you decide to muster that courage, you find that many of the barriers you feared were illusions. The world outside your comfort zone begins to look less daunting and more like a labyrinth you're excited to explore. And as you move through that labyrinth, you grow braver and more capable than you believed possible. That's the paradox. You need courage to begin the journey, and the journey itself gives you more courage. In the end, leaving the familiar is less about discarding who you were and more about expanding into who you're meant to become. Chapter 6. Transformations you'll notice along the way. Once you step into that plane, train, or car, physically relocating your life, or simply embarking on an extended journey, you start noticing changes almost immediately. The small stuff hits first. The novelty of a different accent or dialect, unusual street layouts, unfamiliar foods. These modest details remind you that your old autopilot setting no longer applies. You have to engage actively with your surroundings, and this heightened engagement seeps into your inner world too. Soon you might find your perspective on time shifting. Days in a new place can feel longer and more vivid because each moment is loaded with fresh stimuli. You might relish mornings again, eager to discover what surprises the day holds. Your emotional patterns can also evolve. That sense of stagnation may lift, replaced by curiosity or the thrill of minor daily adventures. Even if you haven't solved all your problems, the distance from your old routine allows you to see them from a different vantage point. Not all the transformations are purely uplifting. You can encounter frustration or homesickness. Little tasks, like grocery shopping, can become puzzles, especially in a place where you don't speak the language fluently or where you can't find the brands you're used to. These inconveniences force you to adapt, revealing how resourceful and flexible you can be. Each minor victory in navigating an unfamiliar system boosts your self-confidence, reminding you of your innate capacity to learn and grow on the fly. You might also notice your relationship shifting. Traveling or moving often highlights who truly supports you. Maybe a close friend goes out of their way to keep in touch, while someone you thought you'd miss becomes a quieter presence in your life. The distance can clarify the bonds that matter most. Likewise, you open the door to entirely new connections, people who might become crucial allies or even lifelong friends, introducing you to perspectives you never considered. And then there's the internal shift, a deepening sense of self. You see yourself doing things that once felt improbable, finding hidden streets or striking up conversations with strangers. Through these actions, you confirm that you're not bound by the old stories you told yourself about your limitations. Each day, you're rewriting your sense of identity in real time. And that rewriting isn't just for the sake of change. It's a liberation, a movement toward the expansive life your soul has been nudging you to live all along. Chapter 7. Embracing the unknown that awaits. Once you've booked the ticket or signed the lease, once the boxes are sealed with tape and the smell of fresh possibility mingles with cardboard and dust, the true turning point arrives. Departure. In those final hours, anxiety flutters like moss in the ribcage, yet anticipation crackles just as strongly, as though your future is humming to and from your skin. One last glance at the room you once called home, one final hug that lingers, and you step into the unknown, perhaps a month-long journey that will quietly rewrite your worldview, or a full relocation that redraws the map of your life. The emotional cocktail of the first days can surprise you. Gratitude tumbles with sudden pangs of nostalgia. Jet lag mingles with tiny griefs for familiar morning light, favorite cafes, or the way the neighbor's dog used to bark precisely at sunset. But beneath surface turbulence, you feel something tectonic sliding into place. A new dimension of selfhood forming. Stagnation, once thick as humid air, shrinks in your mental rear view, dwarfed by the vibrancy of untried streets and unnamed constellations. Change spirals to mundane details, a different rhythm of traffic, unexpected spices in the market, the way strangers hold eye contact 2 beats longer or shorter, and each small contrast confirms the larger truth. You didn't just shift location, you shifted possibility. Soon, ordinary acts become initiations. Buying fruit in another language teaches humility and improvisation. Setting up a new bank account with a transit card flexes administrative courage. Even getting lost turns into a scavenger hunt dropped by the universe, rewarding curiosity over control. You start noticing how adaptive you really are, how quickly neural pathways spark when necessity demands. And that discovery feeds your confidence far more effectively than pep talks ever did. What does destiny have in mind for a traveler who dares this leap? Perhaps the new city leads you into a volunteer project that reveals a calling for social impact, or a surf lesson blossoms into a lifelong kinship with water. Maybe clarity arrives not through fireworks, but through the mundane rhythms of grocery shopping and neighborhood walks. Constant reminders that your identity is elastic, your habits negotiable. Even if you end up returning to familiar soil, you will not be the person who left. Inner geography expands in ways air miles can't capture. Important, too, are the people who step into your unfolding chapter. Some appear like mirrors, reflecting hidden talents you had yet to claim. Others arrive as catalysts, pushing you beyond comfort zones with an earnest question or a shared dream scribbled on a napkin at midnight. These connections hint that the larger pattern guiding you also nudges them into place. Synchronicities bloom. Repeating numbers on the train platform, a stranger recommending the very book you contemplated packing, a flatmate whose childhood town matches the obscure one your grandmother fled. Each coincidence feels less random and more like breadcrumbs on a cosmic trail. To navigate this frontier, develop rituals that ground and stretch simultaneously. A sunrise check-in where you list 3 wonders from the previous day, an evening candle lit for 5 minutes of silent gratitude, Sunday cafe hours dedicated to writing letters, digital or handwritten, to loved ones back home, weaving old roots into new soil. Such practices stabilize the nervous system while keeping the heart permeable to fresh enchantment. Remember, the unknown isn't merely external geography, it's the internal terrain you've yet to explore. You confront dormant fears of language mishaps, of loneliness, of being found out as an amateur at life. Let these fears surface. They are not stop signs but data points. Observe, breathe, experiment. Order a meal without knowing every ingredient. Attend an event alone. Each small risk chips away at the illusion that safety equals sameness. Financially and logistically, surprises will arise. Hidden fees, delayed shipments, bureaucratic puzzles. Approach them as puzzle rooms rather than catastrophes. In solving them, you'll accrue resourcefulness that endures long after addresses change again. Keep an adaptability ledger, a journal of obstacles encountered and solutions improvised. On days when self-doubt resurfaces, that record will prove you can conjure resilience on demand. Meanwhile, the old life echoes in gentle ways. A song shuffling up on headphones, the scent of a dish cooked by a new acquaintance that tastes uncannily like a family recipe. These echoes remind you that honoring where you came from and immersing in where you are now need not conflict. You carry home within, and it evolves as you do. Over months, novelty settles into rhythm. Streets once exotic become beloved roots. City sounds blend into background music for your thoughts. That's when a fresh whisper may arise. What's the next frontier? Don't resist it out of loyalty to comfort. Growth is cyclical. Exploration, integration, expansion again. The courage you're flexing now will equip you for future leaps, whether to another country, a new career, or a radical inner commitment to healing. If someday you choose to return to familiar ground, expect reverse culture shock. Former patterns may feel tight, as though you've outgrown an old coat. That discomfort is evidence of stretching, not a sign you messed up. You'll bring back renewed perspective, contagious curiosity, and perhaps a mission to infuse home with lessons learned abroad. Ultimately, embracing the unknown is less about geography than about governance of spirit. You prove to yourself that identity is a verb, not a noun, that belonging can be portable, and that destiny rewards the traveler who greets uncertainty with open palms. Whatever horizon pulls you next, another continent, a bold career shift, a vulnerable relationship, remember how this journey began, with a suitcase or backpack and a decision to trust possibility more than fear. Keep that initiatory spark alive, and every threshold you cross will reveal a richer, braver version of you, ready to co-create marvels the old comfort zone could never contain.